Hello everyone, today I'm in Perth, Ontario, and I'm going to take you on a tour of the Perth Museum. So here is what it looks like on the outside. Before we go in, I'm going to take you on a tour of the gardens. Here's a historic sundial. And a cherub. So they did a really great job of trying to make this authentic to what it would have been like in the 1800s. These gardens are maintained by the Perth and District Horticulture Society volunteers. Okay, now let's go inside. So, even though the signage is at the front door, you actually can't get in through this door at this time. You have to go in through the side. But before we do, I'm just going to read you the placard with information. So the Matheson House, built in 1840 of local sandstone, the Matheson House is an outstanding example of early Scottish Canadian architecture. Its design is imposing, its stonework remarkably fine, and it occupies a key position in one of the best surviving streetscapes in Canada, characteristic of this important architectural tradition. The house was originally owned by the Honourable Roderick Matheson, a prominent citizen of Perth and one of the Dominion's first senators. It remains in the possession of the Matheson family for nearly 100 years. Okay, let's go. So you come in here, and this is where the entrance to the museum is, but it's also got a information center for Perth. So if you're a tourist here for the day or first time and want more information, this is where you would come. There's a cute little Gardens on the side as well. And a historic outdoor fireplace. All right, and then you just go through this door to access the tourism office and access the museum to the right. And this museum is free, but they accept donations to help maintain it. All right, let's go in. And here's a wood stove. And a fireplace. Historic dress. A little high chair. The Upper Canada Gazette. Little teacups. And I believe this is how they made candles. So the sign says, an 1840s kitchen. The kitchen was a hub of activity, but the Matheson family never set foot in here. This was their servants' domain. After a 2-year stay in Scotland, Roderick returned to Perth in 1830 with 2 servants, a cook, and most likely a butler. Records indicate many of them worked for the family throughout their career. The servants ate their meals in their room, and the handyman even slept here to keep the fire burning all night long. Other staff slept in the servants' quarters, originally located through the door next to the fireplace. In the kitchen, the fire was always burning to keep up with the demands of meal preparation. There were 2 beehive ovens outside for baking. Right, here's a little writing desk. And this is the front entrance. Wow, there's a really elaborate coat rack. You've got canes on the bottom, hang your coats at the top. The Matheson House was home to Roderick Matheson and his family, including his first wife, Mary Fraser Robertson, who died shortly after giving birth to twin sons in the previous house at this location, and his second wife, Annabella Russell, with whom he had 4 sons and 7 daughters. Frederick was born in Scotland in 1793. He immigrated here in 1808 and served with the Glengarry Light Infantry Fencibles. Wow, this room is incredible. Look at this table. So this is an example of a 1890s parlor. This room was used by the family for many things. It was a family room for the children to play. Roderick had a standing desk here to work at, and it was used for family funerals. This was primarily a family space, but close friends would occasionally be invited in. The cabinet would have been locked. It contained alcohol and tea. The door to the right leads to what was known as the sick room. The sick room is now used for office space, but it was once used as a spare bedroom for elderly visitors and for family members who were sick. When the doctor called, they would come directly to this room rather than upstairs. All right, let's explore this room. Here's another beautiful little side table. A beautiful painting. Our Living Generals by Arthur Temple. And this fireplace is beautiful. Wow, look at this. This dress is beautiful. The level of detail. Look at the sleeves. Look at all the china. There's a dress. And this dress is beautiful. An incredible piano. There's old sheet music on the chair. Old clock. And the artwork, we've got Queen Victoria. And this is Prince Albert. All right, let's go explore another room. Oh, hang on, there's another painting here. Which says Sir Walter Scott. I missed this originally, the beautiful clock. So see, we're in the front entrance lobby, and those are the stairs to go upstairs. Okay, and the chandelier. So this is 1840s dining room. The dining room was used for both family meals and for entertaining. The storage closet had a locking door, and it was used to free up pantry space by storing things such as alcohol, ashtrays, vases, and candlesticks. The other interior door gave staff access to the dining room from the butler's pantry. The butler's pantry was used to plate food from the kitchen before it was served. The garden was also accessible through the dining room. After dining with guests, Mrs. Matheson would invite the women out for a stroll in the garden with a glass of cordial. Here's more. So the sign says Matheson China, circa 1830. Artist John Alcock designed peacock hand painted in gold. Here's another painting, a dresser. Okay, and this one says the town of Perth. And a cute little chair. Beautiful fireplace. Another painting. Another beautiful dress. Beautiful hutch. Dining table. Pie for dessert. Tea set. Let's go upstairs. As you come up the stairs, you may have noticed the width of the staircase and the shallow steps. Roderick Matheson believed that women should be escorted up the stairs, so he had the staircase designed to allow two persons to walk side by side and maintain shallow steps to make it easier for women to walk with long dresses. The house has a traditional center hall floor plan to provide access to all rooms from the front door. The house was built in two stages. First, the kitchen and the drawing room were built in 1835 to 1837, and then the front half of the house, 1837 to 1840. Wow. This room is incredible. A little table for tea and biscuits. Another gorgeous dress. Piano. Look at the little carriage. Beautiful. Another piano. There's two, I believe they're called chaise chairs. Okay, so this says 1840s drawing room. Only Roderick the butler and the head housekeeper had the keys to the drawing room. When guests arrived at the house, the butler would bring them straight upstairs, then find the appropriate family member to see if they were available. The Mathesons entertained both small and large groups in this room. In the early 1840s, they hosted a party on Christmas Day for 200 people. Annabella hosted half the group downstairs, while Roderick hosted the other half here. Eliza, Annabella's sixth child, with Roderick, could recite poems and music by ear. After hearing it just once, she played the piano and the organ and would perform for her guests in the home. A photographer of Eliza can be found on the design details panel in the hallway. This says 1837 to 1931. A section of wallpaper and border imported from China and hung in the drawing room of the Senator R. Matheson House, Perth, Ontario in 1837 and removed in 1931. Wow. Right, all right. Let's go upstairs. Wow, there's like a huge exhibition up here that we can explore. So, Perth Canadian whiskey, a Perth lager, McLaren Scotch whiskey. So, there's a big sign here. Bottles of John McLaren's Scotch whiskey established in 1839 and wooden crate. The smaller bottle was called a Mickey. Perth whiskey and vodka made by Top Shelf Distillery located at the end of Industrial Avenue. Growler from Weatherhead Brewer Company located on Beckwith Street. Lake Town Beer is the new name for Weatherhead Brew. Jane Laurie's ginger beer bottle is made of stoneware. Ceramic lid is attached to the bottle. The transfer design is Jane Laurie's Old English Beer, Perth, Ontario. Jane Laurie had her shop across the street from the Perth Museum, what is now Design Studio Boutique. Jane Laurie was famous for her ginger beer from 1858 to 1885. Also a clear glass bottle of Jane Laurie's ginger beer. Last Stool Beer, made by the Perth Brewery, established in 1996, located on Highway 7. Souvenir cup. There is a transfer design picturing the Locks Bridge, Gore Street East, with the Spalding Distillery in the background to the left. They were located at the corner of Gore and Harvey Street, where Michael's Table is now. Bottle openers ranging from the 1890s to the 1930s to remove caps from bottles. Corkscrew circa 1850s to remove cork from bottle. Corkscrew with brush circa 1850s. The brush was used to remove any debris or dust from the lip of the bottle after removing the cork. Cork press circa 1850s. It would go over the lip of the bottle and you would press down on the cork to insert into the bottle. Flask with cup made of pewter, 1890s. On the floor left, wooden crates from Spalding and Stewart Distillery, used for shipping circa 1860s. And on the floor right, a 5-gallon jug is made of stoneware from Spalding and Stewart circa 1860. Okay, so here Here are the crates. So McLaren's Distillery, 1841 to 1916. Perth's longest running distillery, McLaren's, was located behind Town Hall, now part of Market Square and Stewart Park, known for its Scottish malt whiskies. The McLaren process took 30 days plus aging, whereas many competitors of the time made their product in as little as 3 days. The Spalding and Stewart, 1879 to 1916. Nearly as popular as its competitor, Spalding and Stewart was known for its brands of malt whiskey such as Mountain Dew. The distillery was located along the Tay near the corner of Gore and Harvey, opposite the basin, and is said to have aged its products in underground tunnels. J. Laurie, 1856 to 1925. Along with her bakery and confectionery shop, Jane Laurie brewed and sold Old English ginger beer. This store, which was ran along with her daughter Margaret, was on Gore Street, where Queen Bee Millinery and Perth Pie Company now operate. Perth Brewery, 1993 to present. Perth Brewery first offered customers brew your own service, but had more recently shifted towards craft brewing their products. They produce a variety of beers which are offered at bars, restaurants, and local events, as well as being sold directly from their store and at LCBO and beer store outlets. Top Shelf Distilleries, 2014 to present. Opened in time for the 100th anniversary of Prohibition in Ontario and Perth's 200th anniversary in 2016. The distillery made Top Shelf vodka and gin, Reunion moonshine, and Perth Canadian whiskey available from their store and LCBOs across Ontario. And lastly, Weatherhead Brew Company, 2017 to present. Weatherhead Brew Company is named for Samuel Weatherhead, a locally infamous figure in the history of the Tay Canal who established a depot at Port Emsley. Weatherhead produces a variety of beers and offers dining and catering services. So it says, in the 1800s, it was common to find a Victorian cabinet of curiosities, or curio cabinet, in the homes of those interested in science and the natural world. It was quite fashionable for gentlemen of the Victorian era to collect and study antiques, oddities, plants, animals, fossils, and mineral specimens. It was through these amateur collections that the new field of natural science was born, challenging all the commonly held beliefs about the origins of the earth. Our views about life, the universe, and everything had changed considerably since then, but even today, many unanswered questions about the natural world remain. Citizens, scientists, enthusiastic amateurs, and private collectors continue to make great contributions towards answering them. Okay, so all kinds of different rocks and minerals that they would collect. So wilsonite is often used in jewelry because of its beautiful deep purple to rose red color. At the time, it was also considered a new mineral species when discovered by Dr. Wilson in Bathurst Township in 1853. T.S. Hunt of the Geological Survey Canada commemorated Wilson in 1855 by naming it after him, a common practice in mineralogy. Using advanced technology not available at the time, wilsonite is now more correctly identified by mineralogists as a manganese-bearing mica pseudomorph replacement of the mineral scapolite. To date, wilsonite has only been found in a handful of locations in Ontario and Quebec. Although certain general locality information is known, the original outcrop where it was found, its type locality has not yet been identified. So again, here we go. There, it's purple. And this is perthite. Wilson's most notable contribution to the natural sciences was probably his description of the striking laminate texture he observed in the salmon-colored feldspars of the granite rocks in the local area. This distinctive texture is seen as alternating colored stripes with the feldspar crystals. Originally, this was thought to be indicative of a new mineral species and was named perthite in honor of its discovery near the town of Perth. Since then, this texture has been more clearly understood as an intergrowth of two different alkali feldspar minerals rather than a new distinct species, but rocks exhibiting this phenomenon are still described by geologists all over the world as having a perthitic texture. The original outcrop where perthite was first found just south of here in Tay Valley Township, on the way to Murphy's Point Provincial Park, is considered the type locality for this texture, meaning that all other similar material found anywhere in the world is compared to that found here for identification purposes. As a result of recent road expansion, this type location is now highly visible and easily accessible. It can be found by following Gore Street south, which becomes Rio Ferry Road and turning right onto Elm Grove Road. The outcrop now appears as a low-lying road cut just past Cherry Hill Drive, a total distance from the museum of about 14 kilometers. In 1863, Sir William Edmund Logan, founder of the Geological Survey of Canada, went on the world stage to proclaim that he has found evidence of the oldest known life on the planet. It seems he was wrong. Fossils are the remains of ancient animals or other traces of life that have been preserved in stone. Ezone canadense is now regarded as a pseudofossil, a false fossil, a feature in stone. A feature, a pattern, or texture, which could easily be mistaken for an organic shape, that is actually caused by inorganic processes. Looking at this sample, few could blame Logan for his mistake. So here's the rock again. Pyrite coating calcite. This one is apatite. The white one in the back is quartz. There's a whole bunch more over here. Calcite, gypsum, galena, gypsum. Oh, that one in the back is neat. Squirrel. Calcite. this one? Quartz crystals. The blue one's really pretty, Soda Light. Another really big rock. Discovered by Dr. Wilson in 1859. Climactinites is the fossilized trail of an unknown animal that crawled across what was at the time soft sand. It is believed that this animal was some sort of giant snail-like mollusk, but since no fossil of the actual creature has ever been found, we can't be sure. Okay, can you see? So St. John's Roman Catholic Church, 40 Wilson Street East, the oldest surviving church in Perth. St. John's was completed in 1848 under the direction of Father John McDonough. It is Gothic revival in style, though modestly ornamented on the exterior. The rough-cut field stone is laid in irregular courses which become narrow as they ascend, making its sky-reaching spires appear higher from below. Gothic revival or neo-Gothic is a common style in church architecture modeled after medieval Gothic cathedrals. Tall, pointed arches and spires emphasize height and suggest connection to divinity. The style was considered by some to be more appropriate for Christian worship than the pagan neoclassical styles. The first stone house. This is the oldest surviving stone structure in Perth and among the first built composed of squared rubble. In the 1820s, the building was originally a home for Lieutenant John Mackay and was later used as a law office by Simon Fraser Robertson and subsequently by John Glass Mallock. The building represents the simple residential architecture of Perth's early settlement. Rubble masonry uses stones that are undressed or roughly dressed, while ashlar is worked to have uniform beds, thus being more costly. A course is a continuous horizontal layer of stonework. Regular coursing can be distinguished by even continuous joints. The Matheson House, 11 Gore Street East, which is where we are now, completed in 1840 for the Honorable Roderick Matheson. The house remained in the family for 89 years. Its symmetry and restrained decoration reflected the orderly and rational ethos of Georgian architecture. The facade features a 3-bay frontispiece topped by a pediment with a roundel. The low garden wall is incorporated into this design to resemble a plinth. Neoclassical architecture and related styles draw on the traditions of ancient Greece and Rome, revived in the Renaissance. Facades often reflect the shape of a Greek temple front. The Georgian style corresponds to the reign of the 4 King Georges in Britain, 1714 to 1830. Perth Town Hall, 80 Gore Street East, designed by John Powell and built by Alexander Kippen in 1863 to 64. The town hall reflects the neoclassical style typical of public buildings in the mid-19th century. It also features Italianate detailing, including the denticulated cornice, paneled door, and a tripartite domed cupola, to which the Georgian town clock was added in 1874. also referring to the uppermost part of a classical entablature. A cornice is a projection at the top of a wall or other architectural feature and can be functional or decorative. Dentils are a kind of ornament often set below cornices, named for their resemblance to teeth. And lastly, Perth Manor, 23 Drummond Street West, originally called Thurston Place. This Italianate home was built for J.T. Henderson in 1878. Note the low-pitched, hipped roof and bracketed cornice. The house was passed to his daughter Jessie, who expanded it and added the leader bay windows, porte cochere, while she and her husband John A. Stewart resided in it. A porte cochere or carriage porch is a covered porch with entrances large enough for a vehicle to pass through. This allows passengers to enter and exit while remaining protected from the elements. So here's some pictures of the houses I just talked about. So this is Perth Manor. This is the town hall. This is the Matheson House, which is what we're in right now. This one is the first stone house. This one is Ingva. And this is St. John's Church. So, Walter Cameron was a blacksmith, folk artist, and storyteller from Fallsbrook, Ontario. In his younger days, he also worked as a veterinarian, dentist, and barber. Later in his career, he was often a guest speaker here at Perth Museum. This replica of his blacksmith shop, including the tools, horseshoes, people, and everything inside, was hand carved by Cameron himself. So there's the horseshoes. Example of him putting horseshoes on a horse. And here is a picture of him. Did you know? In 1995, the Ontario Archaeological Society conducted a dig prior to construction of the courthouse and bake oven. In addition to revealing artifacts linked to the Matheson family, the excavation became a hands-on experience. Over 700 school groups took part. Students learned excavation techniques while curious visitors stopped by to watch. Here's some pictures of it. So, pagoda plate, made between 1818 to 1846, original Matheson plate. Perth Museum holds 8 of these beautiful plates in our collection. 4 were found intact during the archaeological dig. Made of porcelain with a brown transfer print, these plates were likely used for family meals rather than former occasions with guests. The Matheson Garden once extended all the way to the far side of what is now the parking lot behind the museum. It was known for its lilac bushes, which were hidden behind the walls. It is said that neighbors would climb to nearby rooftops to look over the edge and see the flowers. In 1985, museum staff, students, volunteers, and Commonwealth Historic Resource Management Limited created the garden with circular paths, a sundial, and stone bench, which all reflect the Matheson Gardens. In 1963, the Royal Canadian Legion Branch 244 was preparing to sell Matheson House when they discovered a painting still in its original wrappings, which was dubbed The Lady in Red. Unfortunately, fresh air exposure caused mold to form on the canvas, requiring restoration. Extensive research suggests the portrait dates to the 1820s and likely depicts Mary Fraser Robertson, 1802 to 25, Roderick Matheson's first wife. Did you know this rooster weather vane originally stood atop the Red House, Perth's oldest building, constructed in 1816, crafted from welded tin and painted gold. Its gilded finish has long since worn away. Perth has held several Old Home Weeks over the years, the first occurring in 1905. These were opportunities for former residents as well as visitors to come to Perth and celebrate their hometown. Parades, street dances, tours, contests, sporting events, picnics, and concerts would turn the town into a week-long party. Fairbanks weight scale. This is the Fairbanks weight scale registering beam that worked in conjunction with the drive-through wooden ramp. This weight scale was originally located behind the town hall before it was moved to the second site of the weight scale station, which was located on Drummond Street and operated from 1900 to 1960. Trucks and wagons laden with goods would enter and drive onto the scales to be weighed and exited after onto what was then called Baby Street. To learn more, please visit the mammoth cheese replica at the Tay Basin beside the Crystal Palace. Blouse, gloves, and fan, worn and used by May Bell Marks. Theatrical makeup, including face powders, face paints, face creams, lip gloss, brushes, and more. Top hat, wig, and sideburns. The wigs and the sideburns were worn by the Marks brothers. The top hat belonged to Tom Marks, as seen in this photograph. And there's this interesting trunk. So this trunk belonged to the Marks brothers and was used for storing costumes, props, makeup, and scripts. There's a long and unique history of theater in Perth, dating back to the mid-19th century, and the fabulous Marks brothers are among the most exciting stories in our colorful past. They have been called the most remarkable theatrical family in Canadian history and the greatest impresario performers of our small town stage in the era before the Nickelodeon. The Marx Brothers troupes performed all over Canada and the United States for 50 years, from the 1870s to the 1920s. They delighted audiences with their flamboyant performances and lavish scenery. They became known as the Canadian King of Repertoire. Each year, after 40 weeks on the road, they would return to their home base, a farm on the shore of Christie Lake close to Perth. There they would rehearse, relax, and plan for the next season's performance. When Tom Marks retired from the theater, he renovated their farmhouse into a hotel named Arley-Dale Inn after his daughter, Arlie. By the 1920s, vaudeville acts and roadshows were declining, and with the last performance of the Marx Brothers Dramatic Company came the end of an era. But the Marx Brothers have never been forgotten here in Perth. So clear the aisles and up with the curtain, it's showtime. Here's a great poster. The Marx Brothers. Okay, so this set of 3 wooden theater seats date from the 1870s, when they were used in the former theater in Town Hall. After that, they were used by St. Paul's United Church, then eventually the former Barn Door Productions. They were donated by David Jacklin. The set of 2 theater seats are from the former Baldiston Theater, located across the street from Perth Museum, now the Fashion Bug. Says Aaron Gobra, Perth, St. Patrick's, 1857. So this, the St. Patrick's Society of Perth commissioned this hand-painted processional banner in 1857. It is reputably the work of John Shannon, an Ottawa artist who lived on St. Patrick Street. The banner depicts the Harp of Tara here and St. Patrick with serpents entwined about his feet on the reverse. The banner is made of 2 pieces of wool cloth, stitched back to back and fringed in gold wool. Note the repairs made to the banner by Canadian Conservation Institute. The St. Patrick's Society of Perth carried this in their St. Patrick's Day procession in 1858. So Perth has had various sports clubs throughout the years. Some are gone, but some remain to this day. Skis, 1920s. Curling stones date between 1820 and the 1850, and broom, 1950s. Snowshoes, 1900s. Baseball glove, 1930s. Cricket bat, 1870s. Lacrosse stick, 1870s. Photograph of the Lawn Bowling Club, 1970s. Woman playing tennis at the Perth Tennis Court, 1890s. Woman golfing on the 9th hole of the Perth Links Otay Golf Course, 1890s. Perth Collegiate
Second rugby team, 1927. Lawn bowling trophy for men and women, 1968 to 2000. And the penny farthing bicycle, 1884. So made in Perth, whoop atone. This product was invented in about 1915 by Dr. J. Megan to prevent or treat whooping cough in children. The Lister's table sauce, created by Ann Lister, who was one of the first patented tomato ketchups, with letter patent issued to Lister on February 15th, 1894. The sauce was made from tomatoes, onions, garlic, peppers, vinegar, sugar, and spices. Adams tallying machine, a prototype of Franklin M. Adams tallying machines. This device was strapped to the arm and was used for counting logs at a sawmill. It was capable of counting to up to 100,000 logs. Venus sewing machine, patented by John Miller in 1871. James M. Miller formed the Venus Sewing Machine Company and established a factory. The company closed after 3 years as it was unable to compete with large companies like Singer. Venus machines were cast iron with hand-painted designs in Victorian Rococo Revival style. Perth manufacturing. The 19th and turn of the 20th century marked an economic boom in Perth. Early businesses included carriage makers, distilleries, furniture factories, tanneries, and CPR car shops. John Alexander Stewart is credited with leading an aggressive campaign to attract industry to Perth around the turn of the century. After settling up practice as a lawyer, Stewart also became involved with McLaren's Distillery, Wampole, Jurgens, and the Perth Shoe Company, and was the Minister of Railways and Canals in Prime Minister Arthur Meighan's cabinet, 1920 to 21. Manufacturing and small-scale industry were traditionally located on the perimeter of town by the river. Perth's population grew by over 1,000 people from 1921 to 41 as industry began to expand and Perth's industrial parks attracted new, large multinational companies. Today, businesses large and small locate in Perth for economic and strategic reasons. Okay, so here is whoopatone for whooping cough. Product list. Heritage Silversmiths product list. Product and price book used by James Brothers. And there's the first scissors. Adams tally machine. This device was strapped to the arm and was used for counting up to 100,000 logs at a sawmill circa 1870 by Franklin M. Adams. Okay, in the middle here there is a really nice dollhouse. So do you recognize this dollhouse? If you said Matheson House or Perth Museum, you would be correct. This scale model was made by Spencer Pincott between 1980 and 1984. Pincott donated the dollhouse in 1985 and continued to maintain it for many years. Fun fact, a roofing consultant once measured the actual roof of this building and determined this dollhouse is only out by 1/16 of an inch on either side. Impressive. Okay, so if you look inside, it is a very impressive replica. So ancestral Puebloan pottery, formerly known as the Anasazi. The ancestral Pueblo were a Native American people who lived in what is now called the Four Corners Plateau of Colorado, New Mexico, Arizona, and Utah until about 1300 AD. The collection also contained fragments unearthed at Pompeii, Italy, and other from northern Mexico. Fragments of a pottery urn or vase unearthed in the excavations at Pompeii, Italy, and brought to Canada by Dr. H.M. Amey, distinguished scientist and archaeologist. Dugout canoe and stanchion. The canoe was built by John Corey around 1840. It was donated by his great-grandson. Although this information has not been verified, it is possible this canoe was used to survey the Tay River in 1815. The Corey family is said to have made 2 canoes for this purpose. The stanchion is said to have come from the Tay Basin and was used to secure boats. So the canoe is on the top. So how it all began. Perth's museum's origins coincide with the 1925 Perth Old Home Week, a celebration of the community's past and present. Among the numerous events and attractions was an art loan exhibition curated by Archibald Campbell, a geologist and descendant of early Perth settlers. At the same time, Archibald had been working on a mineral display on the third floor of the Carnegie Library. This display stemmed from a local collection gathered by Dr. James Wilson during his travels between house calls. Archibald soon broadened the museum's focus to include natural history, war memorabilia, and everyday objects by reaching out to his extensive network of mining companies, universities, colleagues, friends, and eventually residents to solicit donations for the fledgling museum. After Archibald Campbell's death, care of the museum continued under the stewardship of volunteer curators. Supported by a board of directors, they maintain regular seasonal operations and welcome visitors, all while managing an expanding collection, now focusing on preserving and sharing Perth's history. Community interest was on the rise, prompting an increase in artifact donations. While this generosity enriched the museum's collection, it also created challenges. The museum's modest quarters were proving inadequate in terms of storage and display space. By 1962, search for a new location had begun. Various options were considered, but it took a series of events, including threat of demolition, for things to align. In 1965, the Matheson House was up for sale, with developers planning to build on the site. In response, Museum Board President Winifred Inderwick rallied to combine two causes dear to her heart: Perth Museum and the conservation of Perth's architectural heritage. In 1966, she succeeded on both counts as the 1940s Matheson House was designated a National Historic Site. The town of Perth purchased the building to serve as the museum's permanent home. On July 3, 1967, as part of Perth's Old Home Week, Canada's centennial celebrations, David Thompson, Lord Provost of Perth, Scotland, officially opened Perth Museum at the Matheson House with a ribbon-cutting ceremony. On October 24, 1967, a commemorative plaque outlining the national significance of the Matheson House was unveiled by Matheson descendant Helen Shaw and politician Arthur Lang. Did you know? In 1961, an anonymous benefactor donated the pistols used in Canada's last fatal duel. The duel was fought in 1834 outside Perth's town limits on the banks of the Tay River. As the Perth Courier observed, tourists flocking Monday, July 3rd to see the last fatal dueling pistols as the Perth Museum was opened for the summer. That's really fascinating. Perth Museum visitor guest books from 1956 to 1963. Kerosene lanterns. In 1990, more than 32 oil lamps from a private collection were generously donated. The lamps come in a variety of sizes and vibrant colors. So 1968 to 94, a new era begins. This era is recognized as a dynamic period of revitalization for Perth Museum. Although the museum now has a permanent home, it needs a lot of work. Over the next quarter century, heritage experts and skilled trades were hired to repair woodwork and stonework, restore plasterwork, refurbish decorative elements, and refurbish the first two floors to reflect life at the Matheson House in the mid-19th century. The goal was not just to restore the building, but to create an immersive historical experience for visitors. In the 1980s, the museum underwent several major renovations, beginning with the garden, parlor, and drawing room, followed by the Inderwick Wing addition and the kitchen. 1985, the 1840s garden. in partnership with 12 students from Algonquin College, 1840s Heritage Garden was planted to reflect the era. Upper Canada Village contributed a variety of historical appropriate plants and trees, including an apple tree that still stands today. The parlor and drawing room. The parlor and drawing room only required a fresh coat of paint and new wallpaper, as well as a few other details such as drapes and artifacts to represent the time period of each room. 1986, the Inderwick Wing. Completed in 1986, after a year of planning and construction, the Inderwick Wing gave the museum some much needed space. Today it serves as the visitor information center and gift shop. In 1986, the 1840s kitchen. The room was in the worst condition and needed significant repairs. The restoration included plasterwork, new floors, a rebuilt fireplace, hearth and mantel, a new ceiling, fresh trim, and a full repaint. A pantry was also added to complete the space. Started in 1980, the dollhouse took 5 years to complete. Builder Spencer Pincott spent countless hours carefully measuring Perth Museum to recreate it in miniature form. Every detail, except for the dolls and rugs, was handmade by him. Archaeological dig. More than 25,000 artifacts were unearthed, mostly pottery shards, bones from past meals, but also intact items such as pagoda plates, eyeglasses, glass bottles, clay jugs, silverware, even printing type from the Perth Expositor Museum or newspaper, once located on the site. Oh, interesting. Bone toothbrushes. 2 of 4 toothbrushes found during the archaeological dig. One brush still has remnants of the badger or hog's hair bristles. How fascinating is that? And then shell buttons. Buttons were cut from various types of shells like abalone, oyster, and mussels. The mother of pearl buttons were the most popular for women. Indigenous collection. In the museum's early years, Indigenous belongings were collected from across Canada and included as part of our country's story. Today, with respect for Indigenous people and reconciliation efforts, these items are being cared for as we work towards returning them to their rightful communities. Thank you for joining me on this tour of the Perth Museum. I hope you enjoyed it. If you enjoy videos about things to do in Canada, please subscribe to my channel. Until next time, happy travels!